First spoken word piece ever in my life. Okay, so the title of this piece. Where do I belong? People who look like me, who come from parents who are not from here, but were colonized by us, America, this country. We're told to come to the land of milk and honey, only to find out that we weren't welcomed. They only needed their blood, sweat, and labor. Lies, 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 just to use them. Even then, my parents and extended family found a place to call their home in the land of blood and oppression. I know where I belong. I belong to the hardworking, loyal community of Filipinos on Cattaraugus Avenue. I belong to the one-bedroom room apartment which I call my childhood home. I belong to Catholic schoolgirl uniforms and student worker financial aid. From almost being switched at birth to my ancestors living in a nipa hut in the Pagbilao Coconut Mountains. I belong to the moments of shared stories, heartwarming laughs, and streaming tears of ancestors who came before me. I belong to karaoke Saturday nights, singing both to Lea Salonga's love songs, Nandito Ako, to Lauryn Hill's I Need You, Baby. Oh, and I can't forget that I belong to delicious home-cooked Filipino meals on the menu, Grandma's fried chicken winglets, Auntie's ginasang kalabasa, Dad's pancit mikabihon, and my mom's one and only specialty, Filipino sweet spaghetti. I belong to fast food culture of Culver City, carne asada burritos, Chinese sizzling plates, and Shakey's Mojo potatoes. My local Burger King still sits on the corner of Jefferson. The same Burger King from the late 1980s when two white teenage boys threw a balled up napkin at my dad who was getting food at the salad bar. And yes, old school Burger King used to have a salad bar. Was it because my dad was brown? Was it because he was big? Was it because of how he looked or how his Asian family looked? Was it because he and my family did not belong? I recently recalled a memory to my dad, and he doesn't remember a thing. Guess who remembers? I do. I didn't know at the time that there were words to describe what happened to my dad. Racism, discrimination. It wasn't part of my vocabulary yet, but I already knew that something wrong was happening. It was this moment I realized that my family was different, that we didn't fit in the majority white town of Culver City. I belong to the city named after the LA riots of 1992. It was a bright, sunny Wednesday afternoon, and school was about to be dismissed. But the teachers' faces were worried, like we were at risk. The silence of sitting in our seats foreshadowed the ominous atmosphere happening outside in the world. When I arrived home, instead of watching cartoons, I sat by the window, mesmerized by the plumes of smoke that filled up my sky. My hometown was burning alive, and people were mad and angry, and my 7-year-old brain just couldn't understand what was happening. It took decades to rebuild my city, but the scars of the pain are etched in my memory, slashing the wounds wide open in these pandemic times. 28 years later, and the images on TV look very, very similar. But this time, I can comprehend and understand why loud screams echo our neighborhood, and the plumes of smoke cover our towns. And people of all backgrounds stand together, arm in arm, singing songs in unity. Things have not changed since 1992. We like to think of ourselves as a modern progressive society. Well, it's a wake-up call that we have not moved far enough nor changed near enough to say that racism has ended. Why do these racial injustices continue to happen? Maybe it's because they, with a capital T, do not feel like we belong. Us, that's the US, is still not used to a multicultural, diverse society. We can't even institutionalize learning about our history, our identity, and our culture in school. So tell me, where do we belong? We belong in these spaces where voices are heard. We belong in the data where our community can be counted, #complete the census. We belong on the ballot where I no longer identify as other. We belong in politics where people who look like us actually shape policies that help and not harm us. We belong to utang ng loob, gratitude to the community organizers, frontline healthcare workers, and undocumented laborers. We belong to classrooms where my future grandchildren can learn about their Filipinx American identity by teachers who look like them, read Filipinx history books, and not just one sentence headliners about Imelda Marcos' shoes. We belong in a world where violence, racism, and discrimination are no longer a part of our vocabulary. We belong here in Houston, where being someone means accepting people as no matter what circumstances they come from, because that one person is important and matters. You belong here in this time, in this place, where we have each other's backs, even though we're separated by a screen. Now, don't ever tell me I don't belong, because people like you, like me, and like us, we are what makes this community strong. This is where I belong. Thank you. Maraming salamat.